morning, good evening, everyone. This is Luda Kopikina with GAI Insights. Welcome to Daily AI News, where we rate articles essential, important, and optional or optional. The articles are at gaiinsights.com/articles. Please follow along and let us know what you think, because that's very valuable for us, and we like this interactivity. We have Adam, John, Paul, our regular crew, and our wonderful guest, Nina Ruggio, who comes periodically and provides insights from the front of implementing AI. Welcome, Nina.
Thank you very much. Happy to be here.
Great. So let's start with the first article. And the first one is introducing GPT 5.2. It appears it should have been GPT-5.6 because this it seems like it's very good update. What did you think about this, Adam?
Well, absolutely essential news. So as happens with the rinse cycle, there's a few state-of-the-art models that continue to sort of outcompete each other in different ways. And at the moment, with the release of GPT-5.2, OpenAI is once again the undisputed leader. Thanks to Nano Banana Pro, by the way, for taking my notes and making these great infographics and putting them together. Helps me follow along, and hopefully it does for you too at home. The main downside is that it is a deep reasoning model, and it is thinking hard and it's thinking slow. And I find that I'm noticing that there are times where I would prefer to use Grok or something that's going to get me a faster answer that's good enough. And so people have to be mindful of that and perhaps selective about when they use it. It does have the 5.2 Pro. There's also the automatic and then the faster and the reasoning modes you can select, like there were on the previous model. But that's something that the Pro apparently is incredibly good at coding. I'm hearing anecdotes of people who have been hammering on problems with Opus 4.5 and other state-of-the-art models, and they put 5.2 Pro at it, and it was able to handle it quite quickly. So it also has really long reasoning and context for really complex tasks, which is great for coding. But the real big news is about the ARC AGI, probably more than anything out of all of the benchmarks, where it's now on top. And so you see there, 1 year ago when O3 Preview came out, it was costing $4,500 per task to get almost a 90%. And so you understand this ARC AGI is a test where there's nowhere in the corpus of knowledge that these models could be trained on that these tests are. The average human, by the way, will get 95% on this exam because it's all fairly common sense stuff, but extremely difficult. Even 5 years ago, they speculated it could be decades till we have artificial intelligence that could score over 50% on this. And now, a year ago, O3 Preview got almost 90%. And now 5.2 Pro is only at 91%. So it's incremental change in terms of the intelligence and the deepest of reasoning. But look at the cost reduction in a year. For the same level of deep reasoning and intelligence, we're talking 390 times cheaper. So that's really the headline of this, is that the cost for the highest level state-of-the-art intelligence is continuing to drop dramatically. Essential news, especially out of OpenAI.
Yeah, they didn't share how they did it. They really didn't share the behind the scenes, but this is pretty impressive. What did you think, Nina?
I agree with Adam. They owe you big time for this wonderful, overview. I just have two things to say. One is the whole idea that they have recently acknowledged that they have this whole stockpile of more advanced models, and the data centers are sort of like what's limiting them to, in terms of releases. It's just notable. But also, I actually tested it in terms of outputting spreadsheets, for example. It's something that's very simple, but in terms of practical ways, if a business AI leader needs to just output something quickly that actually includes complex formulas, it did really, really well. And I was surprised by that. So absolutely essential.
Essential from Nina. Ashish comments that look, they've in a very short period of time, they produced 3 families. And so the rate of change is certainly accelerating, and they're really pushing the envelope. John, what were your thoughts?
Yeah, essential. Look, one of the leading models, unbelievable, increase in capability. I hear what Ashish is saying, like I just saying in a news cycle, but, it's a good release, worth knowing.
Yeah, it's excellent release. I tried it, and it certainly does way more than previously. I like that capability of Excel because I use it, and that's way better than before. All right, Paul, we're going essential.
Yeah, and I think I just want to highlight, this is such like the early days of the internet, where you have Wall Street and everyday humans talking about version numbers of things. So if I date myself, people were talking about, oh, Netscape 1.1's coming out, and SSL 2.0, and that's what's happening here. I do think, Pankaj, if you can scroll down on the picture on the vision stuff, I think to me what's also notable is that they're getting much more specific on adding value to particular use cases. So like Adam talked about the coding.
This is Excel. This is Excel.
Excel, and if you keep going down on the visioning one, I'll keep going down. They took a picture of a back of a computer.
Where is it? Which one?
It's this article. I thought it was this article. Anyway, it took a back.
Oh, here.
Yeah, where on the 5.1 identified just 2 or 3 of some components, and on the 5.2 it identified a lot more here. So there's vectors into high knowledge work, both on coding and financial services with spreadsheets. And this example with vision is really impressive. And the game is still on. And I certainly agree with the sheets. There's also a huge war going on in the PR. And if you notice all the negative PR that OpenAI's they're on their heels, red code or whatever the hell they're calling it over there. So this is part of the game, and I think we're going to be like this for maybe 6-8 months, maybe 12 months, because it's so competitive right now.
Some. If you look at thanks, Paul, for bringing it up. If you look at the scorecard 5.1 versus 5.2, there's some really serious advances. Look from 36 point something percent to 70, and this one, Amy 2025 to 100%. So they essentially hit it. It's just like massive advances. Okay, essentially this. Let's.
Can I just make one point, Paul? I agree with you. There are things that rhyme with the internet things, but there's at least three massive differences. One is that the adoption that we're seeing here by large companies and in the core and redesign work is the internet stuff was just it was interface and it was IT. Second thing, complementary productivity of now the most powerful and valuable companies in the world. That is, we could pay for all this AI investment just on productivity at Microsoft, Amazon, Google, Alibaba. You know what I mean? So there's that. I think that the third thing is just the internet did not fundamentally give us a technology that could redesign work. I mean, there's some redesign, but knowledge and intelligence is at the core of the vast majority of work. And now we're talking about that. That's very different than interface and access. And I know you weren't saying that, but I just we're at a totally different landscape.
Well, and remember, John, the internet really broke client server, made it a universal client, which was unheard of back then.
Yes.
Yeah, and this is into intelligence layer, per John's point. So this is way different, but very much accelerating, way faster than I thought internet wave went. So okay. So essentially, it is.
I was thinking the other day, we're only on Windows 11 after all these decades, right? And we're already on GPT-5.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, great. Essentially it is. Let's proceed to the next one. The next one comes from HBR, and it talks about the 5 AI tensions leaders need to navigate. It comes from 2 academics and based on a survey with 100 leaders. Nina, what did you think about this one?
I thought it was between important and essential. I do know that at the corporate level, business leaders are grappling with this at the moment. There's still a big sort of like a gap in implementation, and I think it's more familiar with that than I am. But it's basically an HBR article that they argue that the AI implementation is not just a simple efficiency play, but more a management of these 5 core tensions that they laid out. They almost create sort of like a trade-off analysis and going from one to the other. So they started, say, from expert to novice, and then they moved towards speed versus quality. And they do warn, though, that basically that while AI can relieve some of sort of like this grunt work, it often also removes the productive friction that leads to, discoveries and learning and all of that. One of the things that was a little scary to read was that, say, an oncologist, or in this case, it was an endoscopist. No, endoscopist. Endoscopist. Thank you, Luda. Was revealing sort of like a lesser capability of being able to diagnose a type of cancer than, with the help of AI. And so I was just thinking, over time, what this really meant. But in terms of the implementation per se, when I was looking at the 5 tensions, something brought me, and I'm sorry, John, if I'm butchering your model, but it brought me back to something that I heard John describe as the RISE model. And it is something that needs to be just over time. So in other words, I think that we need to measure outcomes, not by how many times or click-throughs employees get through, but mostly on long-term capability. So I did think it was important this way because it needs to be at the forefront of the business AI leader today.
Yeah, so they describe the tensions, and then I think the whole article is about, hey, you need to be aware of these tensions and kind of stay balanced. So the whole notion here is staying balanced and recognizing these tensions. What did you think, John?
Yeah, I forget which president it was who said he wished he had a one-handed economist, because the economist would say on the one hand, and then on the other hand, they'd be like, so this notion of balancing tensions. Hey, just one thing, Luda, they're not both academics. One is from the GAI Institute, which is their sponsored research center, which does academic-like stuff, but it's sponsored by the company. And so that was obviously a big deal at Stanford. I was going to give it an important. I think it gets above optional for me because they do good. I think they do a decent job of identifying relevant tensions, and then they give good case examples. It's not it's certainly not an essential article. I agree with Nina that it's for me it's all relative to a maturity thing, because the advice you get has a lot to do with what you know, and I've never seen a technology that has got such a disparity between people who act like they know something about it and actually know nothing about it. And I think, to me, I think it's a combination of at least 2 things. One is the fact that this has gotten so much press attention that busy executives who don't have time to actually dive into this stuff at all are kind of faking it. And then I think the other thing is that I think people have a real conflict avoidance thing with AI, because this is the first technology, basically since Copernicus, that questions humanity's role in the universe, and so I don't think people consciously think about it, but I think a lot of the anxiety around AI has to do with the fact that all of our myths about technology in the West are negative. Prometheus, Icarus, Frankenstein, Terminator. So very negative. And then there's a real question: as we automate intelligence, what's the role of humanity? I mean, do the robots lead? Do we lead? And so forth. And that's as deep as is it Earth-centric or heliocentric in terms of the universe? And that. So I think that a lot, for those 2 reasons, one conscious and one unconscious, I think a lot of executives duck it and really don't know what they're doing. And this does a good job of talking to them.
Yeah, and they start with this premise and this argument. So this is, totally. Okay, we're going important. Adam, any thoughts, Paul?
No, I agree. I'll double down on what John was saying. I think for all of humanity's history, we've derived purpose and meaning from scarcity and survival. And we're starting to come to a place where we might not have that anymore as driving forces, right? And so what now? Yeah, it's a phenomenal take. And I always appreciate when people have the nuance of balance, as opposed to things you either want to do or don't do, and understanding those opposing tensions. And it does illustrate some good examples. So I was important.
Okay, Paul, anything to add? We're going.
Just a quick thing, John. I thought that riff was fantastic. Monique, our executive producer in the back, I think that's a great short. Yeah, and Adam, really like your point. It is. I think it's goes down to survival mode in our Migna, because we certainly, and I got a love-hate thing with a blockchain, but we certainly did hear all this pontification of blockchain, because that didn't really go to the whole question of our survival and existential questions. A blockchain wasn't going to kill us all and take all our jobs here. So, also, I think we continue to see and hear really good things about Glean in the marketplace here. So, I mean, there's a handful of companies, Glean and Ryder are two of them, that we just continue to hear. N8N's a third in the marketplace, and they're doing some really good leadership work here.
Yeah. Okay, important it is. We're proceeding to the next one. The next one comes from Google, and it's announcing MCP, Model Context Protocol, support for Google services. That can be a quite enabling capability. What did you think about this, John? John, you might be on mute.
Yeah, I'm going to mute. Yeah, I was going to give this, important. I mean, the announcement by Google that they're, deeply supporting this, and the different kinds of capabilities, and I like some of the visualization they had. This is really important, and underneath this is we talked a little bit about this. There's this notion of what actually drives standardization, and a lot of the conversations about the policy and the standards and so forth. That's only one part of it. The other part of it is the transactions themselves, and I think we discussed yesterday. I've done a study over the years about the evolution of standards, and standards follow transactions. And so the fact that Google is now supporting Anthropic, and you take the two of them and you say, okay, let's look at the Google Anthropic share of enterprise and user. That's a significant share,
Yeah.
And so whatever they do to shape standards is going to be important. We have our dear friend Ramesh Raskar over at MIT with the Nanda standard. His problem is he hasn't got any transactions, and he's trying to get them, through the associations with the telecommunications companies in particular. But his standard effort is going to go nowhere unless he can get in a stream of transactions, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And the reason that, and the unfortunate thing is, he's picking up governance models from the academy, like ICON and things like that. But that, you have to remember that the academy had the vast majority, if not the totality, along with military, of internet transactions over a 15, 20-year period. So what those cooperative groups did actually influence the transaction flow, because it was controlled by an inter-school and inter-research agency set of relationships. That's not true here. The hyperscalers have the transactions, and so how they decide to play with each other is going to drive the standards, I think.
Well, Ashish pitches in with a little bit of a contradiction here, saying, look, MCP is already a standard, and Google, for one reason or the other, wasn't embracing it. Maybe they didn't get to it in time, but they are embracing it quite well now. What I like about this, they actually thought quite significantly about security and observability, which is wonderful. So it seems like they are embracing it and embracing it well. Okay, important from John. Adam?
John makes a good case. I could support important. I was actually optional on this. I'm okay. More in line with Ashish's thoughts. Of course, Google is going to support Model Context Protocol. It is the clear winner in the space. At the same time, I'll say, like in Microsoft's Azure Foundry, there's support for Google's agent-to-agent framework as well as Model Context Protocol. So at a certain point, the things that are leading at this point is Google's A2A and MCP, and I think everyone's going to be supporting both of them. So it's not a lot of news in that sense. What it does, this was actually available effectively a year ago, but you had to be quite the developer to build it. And this just reduces a tremendous amount of friction. It's gonna do a lot to accelerate the entire ecosystem. But if I'm building in Google Cloud, then this is great news for me. But for the most part, if I'm in Azure or Amazon, it's not quite so relevant. So.
Okay.
I don't know. I was leaning towards optional, but I'd support important.
For the community, I think it's important. Nina, what do you think?
And I was actually leaning towards essential because it's also, it's on public preview. It has that availability, but I found that there was a pretty big competitive move from Google. So that's why.
I see. Okay. Essential from Nina. Paul.
It's important. It's a press release. We should not confuse press releases about supportability with actual code shipping. But, I do think it's a step towards making MCP, even strengthening it as an interoperability standard. So important.
Yeah, but it to Adam's point, it was available. It just, you needed to dig for it.
I mean, I could even support optional. I mean,
so it's important. Okay, important it is. Let's proceed to the next one. And the next one is the one story. The one story. So this comes from Meta, and it actually focuses on video generation and actually making a movie out of it with adaptive memory. An interesting innovation. What did you think about this, Nina?
I did think it was a fascinating white paper to read, but it is a white paper. It's a great theory. It's really not a product. I did rate it as optional. It is a research paper. There's no really production deployment at the moment, no business metrics, and no enterprise case study either. It is a struggle, right, to find consistency in the production of movies or clips, or especially in the marketing space, but not something that I think is essential for the business leader at the moment.
Yeah. So, but to demonstrate what they were trying to do is like it's in the middle. This whole series of 10 pieces, right from the prompt, text to multi-shot. It actually produces the consistency between the women and men in the plant, and it's a very simple prompt. Okay, Nina is suggesting optional.
If I may add something quickly here, Luda. I'm glad you actually brought this up, because one of the things I was thinking is for the fact that the problem often relies on the prompt itself. This did a nice job, at least in illustrating that. And that was one of the fascinating pieces, where you start with, say, a businessman living in Australia with a ponytail. The second image is the Australian. And that does make a huge difference. I actually ended up just testing, with other image and especially in VO. And that made it a difference. So that's a great point.
So they're pushing it forward for sure. Okay, but optional because it's just a white paper. Adam, agree with optional?
100%.
John, Paul, anything to add? We're going optional on this one.
Yeah, okay. Definitely optional for me, though, but I can't wait for next year, because I think this year has been like the everyday miracle and really impressive on the text to image with Nano Banana at Google. And I think next year we might be getting to the text to video that's actually connecting a story. And heaven forbid, Adam, a one-shot 5-minute text to video that meets 90% of what I want.
We're going to get to the deal between Disney and OpenAI in a minute here.
Yeah, this is what's fascinating. Yeah, so optional it is. Let's proceed to the next one. And we don't have much time left, so we'll need to accelerate. This is an investment announcement from OpenAI that Walt Disney is putting money and actually allowing OpenAI to use Sora with the characters that belong to Disney. What did you think about this? I think it was Adam.
Yeah, sure is. I'm going back to my Nano Banana infographics. I hope people
I love it
as much as I do. It just helps me really think through what's going on here. So there's a few pieces of news within this announcement about the strategic partnership. Mostly it's the idea that now in Sora, for generating those short user videos, you'll actually be able to use all of these different characters from Marvel, Pixar, Star Wars. This is actually not available in Australia. I think it would be a lot of fun to try it out. There's probably going to be a ton of uptake from this. It's a really smart move from OpenAI, a really smart move from Disney as well. They're also doing $1 billion equity investment in OpenAI. So there's it's probably optional. I would lean towards important just because of the size of the players and for people to understand the significance of the kind of moves that are happening in the landscape, and is exactly, as we were just talking about, what we have to look forward to into 2026, some incredible opportunities. And just so you know, I took that picture and put it back into Nana Banana and asked it to identify all the characters in it. So there's some interesting licensing stuff as well you have to consider, when the fact is I can just prompt Google to put all of these Disney and Marvel and Pixar characters in an image, and it does it. But what's going to happen with the licensing rights to do this sort of thing? So it's going to be some fascinating stuff we need to unravel here. But between optional and important news.
Yeah, I'm dying for this to become available. So with Disney Plus, you can actually build your own things with these characters. So I think there will be a lot of fun for the children to engage with this. Okay, so important from Adam. And Nina, what did you think?
Important as well.
Important. And remember that when somebody is putting $1 billion, like this is a new wave, right? We thought $1 billion is a lot of money, and we just kind of got used to this level. It's like, yeah, amazing. John, we're going important on this one. What did you think?
Yeah, absolutely. I wish there was also a concomitant set of innovations around title to intellectual property and how you charge for this stuff. But yes, important.
Well, real quick though, note that we talked all year about how Google has really been leading the text to image and text to video, and Walt Disney partnered with not Google but OpenAI. So they might be seeing some things in the oven there that are impressing them.
Or they might be afraid of Google's willingness to.
Actually, John. That's probably it's YouTube. They need a YouTube blocker.
Yeah. And I think this is the beginning. I think OpenAI is on the roll to go to a lot of those media companies and make deals with them. So this is just a first word, I think.
I mean, can I just? I know we're running late, but can I just think about this for a minute? Okay, Walt Disney Company has some of the most important and valuable images, icons, stories in the world. They are letting this startup company get straight in the core of this business to change the nature of those characters and the nature of storytelling. Think about that for a minute. I mean, this is a 100-year-old company that, is global, like successful everywhere. And back to our wins framework, I mean, talk about in the crucible, they are letting a potentially dangerous partner creating all kinds of new consumption patterns that they may not be able to monetize. I mean, not just in the hen house, or if it's a beehive. I mean, they're with the queen. I mean, they're just hanging out. I mean, it's like.
But John, they don't have a choice. They got to pick one devil and fight with.
Exactly. But I'm just saying. I mean, talk about transformation of this industry. I mean,
yeah, totally agree, John. Well said. Okay. Important it is because it's just opening, because it's Disney and it is OpenAI. It just opens the gate to other people to come in with less impactful characters. So this is like, yeah, amazing. All right, but important. All right, let's go to the last one, and that is it is from Wall Street Journal, and the article is called "U.S. Investors Are Going Big on China AI Despite Concerns in Congress." John, what did you think about this? Quickly.
Yeah, totally optional. Interesting, from an investor standpoint. Yes, you have to get access to these markets. Yes, you have to worry about all the restrictions that the U.S. is going to put on it, and the Chinese. There's a reason that PwC sold its China office. It's because they couldn't live underneath. The crazy stuff the government made them do, in the context of these companies. So I don't trust the numbers coming out of China that much. But look, second biggest market in the world, certainly the only other AI superpower. Investors want to invest there. Surprise, surprise.
Yeah, no surprise. Optional from John. Any disagreements?
Well, I think the only key thing here is that I've been in a lot of conversations about AI leaders thinking that the investors are going to get involved in the AI versus China fight. They're not. they're going to go where IRR and return is, and this is a good
Exactly.
indication of that.
Where's
So
the money? Follow the money. Follow the money. And they're investing in the companies that are on here in the U.S. and
Right.
yeah.
If for those who don't know Wall Street, just go watch Catch 22, God forbid, and think about Milo Mindbender, and that is Wall Street. Okay.
Okay, Nina, Adam, we're going optional on this one. Okay, great. Optional it is. As we're preparing the scorecard, any announcements, Paul?
Just two quick things. One, just an unbelievable set of fascinating conversations with companies that are going through transformation to be AI centric or AI first, and the criticality of Gen AI 101, 201, 301 training here. And John, leading our Learning Lab showcase on Monday night. John, you want to share your thoughts?
Yes, we're going to talk about what we mean by that in terms of that, where organizations are, the economic returns we're seeing, and the steps and principles you can use to take your organization from human to hybrid.
Great. Thank you for that. For today, we have one essential, 3 important, and the rest were optional. Nina, thanks for joining. Ashish and everyone, thanks for commenting. And happy Friday, and we'll see you on Monday.